There are 5 types of homes that look perfect on the listing, perfect in the showing, and perfect on the inspection, and I will still tell my clients to walk away from them every single time. Not because they're bad homes, but because of what they might cost you the day after you close. I'm Joel Poulin. I read this market every single day so that my clients don't get blindsided. And in the next 15 minutes, I'm gonna show you exactly what to look for before you write the offer so you can be the buyer who gets this right. If you find this useful, hit subscribe. I put out a new video every single week breaking down the things that buyers actually need to know. Number 1, homes priced above the neighborhood ceiling. This is the trap that catches more elevated buyers than anything I see. And the reason it catches them is that on paper, the home looks more than worth the price. Maybe the seller invested a significant amount on the renovation. Maybe the finishes are better than anything else in a 5-block radius. Maybe the home is genuinely the nicest one on the street. And that is exactly the problem. Every neighborhood has a price ceiling. It's not a number that anyone publishes, it's the highest price a comparable home has actually sold for in the last 6 months. When you offer above that ceiling, 2 things happen, and neither one favors you. The first is the appraisal. Appraisers don't price your home in a vacuum. They look at comparable sales, typically 3 to 5 homes that have actually closed within roughly a mile of the property in the last 90 days. If your contract price is above the highest of those comps, the appraisal is coming in low. Not might, it will. And when the appraisal comes in low, you have 3 options. Bring cash to cover the gap, renegotiate with a seller who's already emotionally attached to a number that doesn't exist, or walk away. And hopefully before your financing contingency is up, or you might lose your earnest money. The second is resale. Even if you can stomach the appraisal gap and close, you've just become the new neighborhood ceiling, which means when you go to sell 3 years, 5 years, or 10 years from now, every buyer's appraisal will be using your purchase price as their new high comp. And the same dynamic will start to work against you in reverse. Here's how to test this before you write the offer. Ask your agent to pull every closed sale within a half mile in the last 6 months. Look at the top 3. If the home that you're considering is asking 5 or 10% above the highest one, that's a warning zone. 15% above, that's the walkaway zone. It doesn't matter how beautiful the renovation is, the market doesn't care what the seller spent. It cares what comparable buyers have actually paid. Here's what nobody tells you about over-improved homes. The seller's renovation budget was a gift to the next 10 neighbors. Their property values went up. Yours is going to absorb the entire correction the day you try to sell. Number 2, homes in high-risk flood zones. I know it sounds obvious, of course you wouldn't buy a house in a flood zone, but the version of this that I see all the time is more subtle. Buyers fall in love with a house. The agent mentions it's in a flood zone. The buyer says, well, it's only a 500-year zone. The seller's never had a flood, and they keep going. Here's what I want you to understand about that. A 100-year flood zone doesn't mean it floods every 100 years. It means there's a 1% chance of a major flood every single year. Over the life of a 30-year mortgage, that's a roughly 1 in 4 cumulative probability. That is not a rare event. That is a planning event. A 500-year zone is a lower risk, but it's not a zero risk. And the climate baseline those maps were drawn against is changing. Now let's talk about what it actually costs. The average annual flood insurance through the National Flood Insurance Program is roughly $900 to $1,100 nationally. But the average masks an enormous range. In a high-risk coastal county, an individual policy can run $4,000 to $5,000 a year, and private flood insurance for higher value homes routinely runs more than that. Here's the part most buyers never think about. NFIP coverage caps building protection at $250,000. On a $1 million home, that's a fraction of replacement cost. You're going to need a private excess policy on top, and those carriers can decline you, raise rates, or pull out of a market entirely. And one more thing, if you're financing with a conventional mortgage and the home is in a special flood hazard area, your lender will require flood insurance, not optional. That premium gets escrowed into your monthly payment and follows the home forever. I would be weary about buying a home in a high-risk flood zone, and if you do anyway, just make sure that you factor in the additional cost of ownership into the equation. Has this been useful so far? Drop a comment and tell me your flood story. I read every single one. Number 3, homes with significant unpermitted work. This is the one that buyers consistently underestimate. especially at higher price points where the work usually looks great. A finished garage, a primary suite addition, a pool house, a garage conversion. The cosmetics are beautiful and not a single permit was pulled. Why this is a problem isn't aesthetic. It's structural to the entire transaction. First, your appraisal. Appraisers do not include unpermitted square footage in the home's valuation. So the gorgeous addition that turned a 4-bedroom into a 5-bedroom, your lender is appraising on the 4-bedroom version. If your purchase price was based on the bigger number, your appraisal comes in low and your financing gets compromised. Second is your title insurance. Standard title insurance does not cover unpermitted construction. If the municipality eventually catches the work, and they do catch it, usually when you go to sell, you are personally on the hook for permits, retroactive inspections, code upgrades, and sometimes demolition. Third, your homeowner's insurance. If a fire originates in unpermitted electrical work or water damage traces back to unpermitted plumbing, your carrier has grounds to deny the claim. Fourth, and this is the one that surprises most people, your lender. Many lenders will not finance a home with significant unpermitted additions. Some will require the work to be permitted before closing, and some will just simply not lend on the deal. So here's what we do. We pull the permit history on the property within our inspection period. In most jurisdictions, you can do this online with the county or the city. Compare what's permitted to what's actually there. If the home has square footage that doesn't appear in any permit record, that's a conversation that has to happen before you commit. If the work is small and cosmetic, you can usually negotiate around it. If the work is structural, an addition, a load-bearing change, a converted garage, and the seller refuses to retroactively permit it, you probably want to consider walking. There are way too many ways that a property can hurt you down the road. Here's the part that nobody warns you about. Unpermitted work doesn't usually become your problem the day you move in. It becomes your problem the day you go to sell. And by then, you've lived with it for a decade and forgotten all about it, but it certainly will affect your resale value. Number 4, recent flips by inexperienced operators. I want to be careful here because there are excellent flippers in the business. People who buy older homes, take them down to the studs, and bring them back better than they were before. I'm not talking about those people. I'm talking about the version that's everywhere right now. An LLC bought the home 12 months ago, did a fast cosmetic refresh, and put it back on the market for a substantial amount more. According to Adam data, flipped homes accounted for 7.4% of all home sales in 2025. Most were fine, some were not. Here's how you can tell the difference, and you can do this in the first 10 minutes of a showing. Look at the cosmetic finishes, not the headline stuff, the dumb little stuff. Are the corners of the trim cut clean, or do you see caulk filling the gaps? Is the paint cut to the ceiling, or are there wavy edges? Are the cabinet doors sitting flush, or do some hang lower than others? Open a drawer, does it slide smoothly? If they cut corners on the things that you can see, what do you think they did to the things you can't? The wiring inside the walls, the plumbing connections underneath the slab, the flashing around the new windows. Then look at the listing history. On any public real estate site, you can see when the property was last sold and for how much. If the LLC paid $500,000 8 months ago and they're listing it now for $825,000, the only update you can see is maybe fresh paint, flooring, and counters. Somebody's paying for that delta. Don't let it be you. If the inspection comes back clean, fine. But on a recent flip, I want deeper insight, like a sewer scope or a thermal scan, and of course, permit history. Number 5, homes with over-the-top custom finishes. This is where buyers get themselves in trouble because at a certain point, custom stops adding value and starts subtracting from it. Let me give you the test I use. Walk through the home and ask yourself, would the next buyer want this exact feature? Not a similar feature, the exact one. If the answer is no, that feature is costing you money the day you close. The classic examples: a custom theater room with locked-in seating, a built-in saltwater aquarium, a wine cellar with over-the-top custom stonework, or a yard that is over-landscaped and looks like a jungle, an indoor pool with a glass-enclosed lounge. Look, none of these are wrong, they're just deeply personal. And the personality tax on resale is real. Say the seller spent $400,000 on the feature. They expect to get that money back. The next buyer doesn't want it at any price. So the seller has to either discount the home enough that the buyer can rip it out, or the home sits. Days on market climbs, the eventual sale price reflects that. that. The other version is the over-renovated kitchen. I have walked through homes where the seller spent $300,000 on a kitchen. Custom cabinets, exotic stone, hand-forged hardware, and it all appeals to almost no one because the more specific the design, the smaller the buyer pool always. So when you're walking a home, separate two things in your head: what you would enjoy living with and what you would want to inherit if it were already there. Those are different questions. The first is about your dream home. The second is about your actual investment. The features that hold value across a broad spectrum of buyers are pretty consistent. A great kitchen with a flexible layout, a primary suite that feels like a retreat, outdoor living that connects to the interior, storage, light, ceiling height. The features that destroy value are also consistent. Anything that locks the next buyer into the previous homeowner's hobby, anything that required specialized maintenance, anything that would be expensive to remove. The buyers who get this right look at every feature and ask themselves, does this expand who would want this house, or does it shrink it? That single filter would save you more money than any other piece of advice I could give. So that's the 5. Homes priced way above the neighborhood ceiling, homes in high-risk flood zones, homes with major unpermitted work, recent flips by inexperienced operators, and homes with over-the-top custom features. None of these are absolute rules. There are exceptions to all of them, and a great agent and a great inspector can help you navigate every single one. But each carries a hidden cost that doesn't show up in the listing price, and the buyers who get hurt are almost always the ones who fell in love with the home before they did the math. Buy the home that gives back. Walk away from the home that takes. And if you're not sure which one you're standing in, that's exactly when you call someone like me. If you want my read on a specific property, the link to book a call is in the description. If you found this useful, subscribe so that my next video finds you. I'm Joel Poulin, your Florida real estate agent, and I'll see you in the next video.